The space station Concordia floated in the darkness between stars. It was neutral ground built for meetings between different alien races. Today, it would host something that had never happened before. Humans were about to meet the Velkari, Kang. Minho sat at the long metal table in the diplomatic chamber. He was reading through papers on his tablet, making notes with a simple pen. His colleague, Park Sola, stood near the window, watching ships dock at the station. Both humans wore simple blue uniforms with Earth symbol on the shoulder. "Are you nervous?" Sola asked, without turning around. Minho looked up from his papers. "Should I be? They say the Velkari are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. 8 feet tall, claws that can cut through steel, teeth like razors." Sola finally turned to face him. "Entire civilizations surrender when they hear the Velkari are coming." Minho nodded and went back to his reading. "I saw the files. Impressive." The door to the chamber slid open with a soft hiss. Heavy footsteps echoed in the room. Veltara entered first, followed by 2 other Velkari guards. She was exactly what the reports described. 8 feet of muscle and armor-like scales. Her claws were longer than human fingers. Her eyes were yellow with black slits, like a snake's eyes. Weapons hung from her belt. Scars covered her arms and face, each one telling a story of battle. The other aliens in the room stepped back. A blue-skinned diplomat from the Tan Empire actually hid behind a pillar. Even the robot translator moved away from the table. Veltara walked slowly to the table. Each step was meant to show power. Her claws clicked against the metal floor. She stopped directly across from Minho. Minho looked up from his papers. "Commander Veltara, I assume. Please, sit down." Veltara did not sit. She placed both clawed hands on the table and leaned forward. Her face was inches from Minho's. Her breath smelled like sulfur and old blood. "I am Veltara, War Commander. Of the 3rd Claw Legion. I have killed more beings than you have ever seen. My fleet has burned 100 worlds to ash. When I speak, entire star systems tremble." Her voice was deep and rough, like grinding stone. Minho set down his pen and looked at her calmly. "That's quite a resume. Would you like some water? Coffee? The station has excellent coffee." Veltara's eyes narrowed. This was not the reaction she expected. Every other species cowered when she introduced herself. They begged for mercy or tried to run. This small, soft creature was offering her drinks. "Did you not hear what I said, human?" "I heard you. War Commander, 3rd Claw Legion, lots of killing, burning worlds. Very impressive." Minho picked up another paper. "According to these files, your people control about 40% of this galaxy's inhabited systems. That's good for business." Sola walked over and sat down next to Minho. She looked at Veltara with interest, like she was studying an interesting animal. "The reports say your species evolved from pack hunters on a death world. High gravity, toxic atmosphere, everything trying to kill everything else. No wonder you're so good at warfare." Veltara straightened up. These humans were discussing her like she was a science project, not a deadly predator. "You dare to analyze me?" "It's what we do," Minho said. "We study things, learn about them, try to understand how they work." He gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Please, sit. We have a lot to discuss." For the first time in her life, Veltara felt confused. She had come here expecting fear, begging, maybe attempts to buy her off with tribute. Instead, these humans treated her like a business partner. She sat down slowly, keeping her claws visible on the table. Your species is either very brave or very stupid. Probably both, Sola said with a small smile. Humans are known for that. Minho opened a folder. Let's talk about trade routes. Your people control some very useful star lanes. Earth has resources you might find valuable. Rare metals, organic compounds, art and entertainment. Art? Veltara's voice carried confusion and disgust. You offer me paintings and songs? Human entertainment is quite popular in civilized systems, Sola explained. Music, stories, games. We're very creative. It comes from having active imaginations. Veltara leaned back in her chair. This meeting was going nothing like she planned. She decided to be more direct. Do you know what I did last week, human? Probably something military-related, Minho said, still reading his papers. I executed 10,000 prisoners from the Kellen Revolt. I had them lined up on their home world and killed them one by one. Their families watched. Children cried for their parents as I tore them apart with my own claws. Veltara watched Minho's face for fear, disgust, anything. Minho looked up and nodded. That must have taken a while. 10,000 is a lot. Did you do it for tactical reasons or just to send a message? The question hit Veltara like a physical blow. He was asking about her massacre like it was a math problem. What? 10,000 executions. That's roughly a battalion's worth of people. Were you trying to break their military structure, terrorize the population into surrender, or just show other systems what happens when they rebel? From a strategic standpoint, I mean. Sola leaned forward with interest. Public executions are usually more about the audience than the victims. You were sending a message to other potential rebels, right? Classic intimidation tactics. Veltara stared at them. They were discussing her war crimes like they were analyzing a chess game. No moral judgment, no horror, just professional interest in the tactics involved. You are not afraid? She finally asked. Of what? Minho asked. Of me. Of what I might do to you. I am a killer. I am death incarnate. I am the thing that nightmares fear. Veltara's voice rose to a roar that shook the room's walls. The other aliens in the chamber pressed themselves against the far walls. The blue-skinned diplomat was actually whimpering, but the two humans just sat there, unmoved. Minho sat down, his papers, and looked directly into Veltara's yellow eyes. His voice was calm, quiet, almost gentle. Why don't you fear me, human? Veltara demanded. Minho's answer came without hesitation, without emotion, like he was stating a simple fact about the weather. Because I've seen what humans do to things we're afraid of, and I'd rather not do that to you. The room went completely silent. Even the air recycling system seemed to stop humming. Veltara felt something she had never experienced before in her entire life. She felt afraid, not of Minho's size or strength. He was smaller than her, weaker, with no visible weapons. She was afraid of something in his eyes. Something in the way he said those words. Like he was warning her about something terrible that he genuinely hoped would never happen. What do you mean? She whispered. Minho picked up his pen again. Hopefully we'll never have to find out. Now, about those trade routes. I think we can work something out that benefits both our species. Veltara sat in her chair, staring at this small human who had just made her feel like prey for the first time in her life. She had come here to intimidate and dominate. Instead, she found herself wondering what these creatures were hiding behind their calm, polite faces. Outside the window, Human ships waited in the darkness. They looked small and fragile compared to Velkari warships. But now Veltara wondered if appearances could be deceiving. What exactly had she gotten herself into? Veltara walked quickly through the corridors of the space station. Her claws clicked against the metal floor with each angry step. The meeting with the humans had not gone as planned. Not at all. She found a quiet communication room and sealed the door. Her clawed fingers moved over the control panel, opening a secure channel to her home fleet. The holographic image of Nexthul appeared before her. Nexthul was even larger than Veltara, his scales darker and more scarred. He was the war chief of all Velkari forces, the apex predator among apex predators. When he spoke, his voice could shatter glass. "Report, Commander. Did the humans submit to our demands?" Veltara hesitated. In all her years of service, she had never failed to intimidate another species. "The situation is complicated, War Chief." "Complicated?" Nexthul's eyes flashed with anger. "Did you tell them what we do to those who resist us?" "I told them everything. I described our victories, our kills, our power. I even told them about the Kellen executions." Veltara paused. "They asked if it was for tactical reasons?" Nexthul was quiet for a long moment. "They what?" "They wanted to know the strategic purpose behind the killings. They discussed it like military analysts. No fear, no horror, just professional interest." Veltara's voice carried confusion she had never felt before. "War Chief, these humans are not like the other species." "Explain." "They do not respond to intimidation. When I told them I had killed thousands, they asked technical questions. When I threatened them, they offered me coffee." Veltara looked directly at her superior. "There is something wrong with them, War Chief. Something dangerous." Nexthul's laugh was like breaking rocks. "Dangerous. They are tiny creatures from a small world. Our scouts report they have barely left their own star system. What could they possibly do to threaten the Velkari Empire?" "I do not know. But when I asked why they did not fear me, the human said something that—" Veltara stopped. "What did he say?" "He said he had seen what humans do to things they are afraid of, and he would rather not do that to me." The words came out quietly. "War Chief, he was not boasting. He was warning me, like he was genuinely concerned for my safety." The communication was silent, except for the hum of the ship's engines. Finally, Nexthul spoke. "You will continue monitoring these humans. Learn everything you can about them. If they think they can threaten the Velkari, they are mistaken. We have conquered this entire galaxy through strength and fear. These creatures will learn their place." The communication ended. Veltara stared at the empty space where the hologram had been. For the first time in her military career, she was not sure her people were dealing with just another weak species. Meanwhile, in their own quarters on the station, Minho and Sola sat across from each other at a small table. The room was simple and clean, with earth furniture that looked tiny compared to the station's massive alien architecture. "That went well," Sola said, pouring herself tea from a thermal cup. Minho looked tired. "Did it?" "She looked like she wanted to rip my throat out. She always looks like that. It's what they do. But did you see her eyes when you gave her that warning? I think we got through to her." Sola took a sip of her tea. "Question is, was that smart?" Minho stood up and walked to the small window. Outside, he could see Velkari ships in the distance. They were massive, dark things that looked like they were built for nothing but war. We had to be honest eventually. Better now than when it's too late. You think they'll back down? I hope so. I really, really hope so. Minho turned away from the window. Because if they don't... Sola nodded. Both humans knew what that meant. They had studied the files on the Velkari Empire. 40% of the galaxy under their control. Billions of beings living under their rule through fear. It was impressive, in a terrible way. But humans had their own history to consider. Do you ever think about the Glass War? Sola asked quietly. Minho sat back down. Every day. How could I not? The Glass War. Even the name still made humans shiver. It had been Earth's last great conflict before they reached the stars. 50 years ago, two massive alliance blocks had decided to settle their differences permanently. The war lasted 3 months. When it ended, entire continents were fields of radioactive glass. 2 billion people died. Cities that had stood for thousands of years became empty ruins. Children grew up in underground shelters, never seeing the sun. The oceans boiled in some places, but humanity survived. They always did. I was 7 when it ended, Minho said. I remember coming up from the shelters for the first time. The sky was still red from all the ash and smoke. My mother held my hand and told me to remember what we had done to ourselves, so we would never do it again. My family lived in the Soul Crater for 5 years after, Sola added. 3 million people in underground tunnels sharing recycled air and synthetic food. But we rebuilt. We always rebuild. That was the thing about humans that other species did not understand. They could survive almost anything, including themselves. Every other race in the galaxy had horror stories about natural disasters, alien invasions, or diseases that nearly destroyed them. Humans had horror stories about what they did to each other, and they learned to live with it. The Velkari think they're scary because they're big and strong and have sharp teeth, Minho said. They kill people to send messages. They burn worlds to show power. Crude but effective, Sola agreed. It works on species that evolved to avoid predators. Run away from the big scary thing with claws. But humans didn't evolve to run from predators. We evolved to be the predators, and then we had to learn to live with what that made us. The two humans sat quietly, thinking about their species' bloody history. The wars, the genocides, the casual cruelty that humans could inflict on each other. But also the art, the music, the philosophy that came from trying to understand why they did such things. Other species feared death. Humans feared what they might become. Do you think we'll have to show them? Sola asked. Minho was quiet for a long time. Finally, he shook his head. I hope not. I really hope not. Because once we show them what we're capable of, there's no going back. They'll either surrender completely or try to destroy us. And then we become what we've been trying not to be since the Glass War. Exactly. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Minho activated the communication panel. Captain Yoon Daeho's face appeared on the screen. He was a veteran space marine, older than both diplomats, with scars that told their own stories. Sir, we've got movement on the long-range scanners. Unknown. Ships approaching the station. Large ones. Velkari reinforcements? Sola asked. Negative. These are bigger. Much bigger. And they're not broadcasting any identification signals. Daeho's expression was grim. Sir, I think we might have a problem. Minho and Sola looked at each other. First contact with one dangerous alien species was complicated enough. Now something else was coming. How long until they arrive, Captain? 6 hours, sir. Whatever they are, they're moving fast. The communication ended. Minho and Sola sat in their small room, surrounded by the vast darkness of space, waiting for whatever was coming next. Outside their window, the Velkari ships continued their patrol. The galaxy's most feared predators patrolling their territory, like they had for centuries. But for the first time in those centuries, they were not the most dangerous things in local space. Humans had arrived, and they brought their history with them. The alarm sirens started 6 hours later, just as Captain Deho had predicted. Red lights flashed throughout the space station Concordia. Emergency announcements echoed through the corridors in dozens of alien languages. Hive collective ships. Detected! All civilians to emergency shelters, all military personnel to battle stations. Veltara was in the station's command center when the attack began. She watched the tactical displays with professional interest. 30 massive bioships emerged from hyperspace, each one the size of a small moon. They moved like living creatures, pulsing and writhing as they approached the station, the Hive Collective. Even the Velkari knew to avoid them when possible. They were not a species exactly. They were a disease, a plague that consumed entire star systems, turning everything organic into more of themselves. Planets, animals, people, all became part of the Hive. Estimated time until contact? Veltara asked the station commander, a nervous bird-like alien named Crix. 17 minutes, Crix chirped, his feathers standing on end with fear. All ships are being recalled to the station for evacuation. Veltara watched the tactical display. The various alien ships docked at the station were pulling away as fast as possible. Tan Empire cruisers, Kaleth trading vessels, even the massive Velkari dreadnoughts were retreating to safe distances, all except the human ships. "What are those idiots doing?" she muttered. The 3 small human vessels were moving toward the Hive fleet. They looked like toys compared to the massive bioships. Their weapons were tiny, their hulls were thin, and they were outnumbered 10 to 1. "Sir!" one of Crix's subordinates called out, "the human ships are requesting permission to engage the enemy." "Granted," Crix squawked without hesitation. "Any help we can get." Veltara watched in amazement as the human ships opened fire. Their weapons were indeed small compared to Velkari guns, but they used them differently. Instead of trying to destroy the bioships, they targeted specific areas. Life support systems, navigation nodes, anything that looked like it might be important. But the real surprise came when the Hive ships reached the station. Most of the alien crew were evacuating to the lower levels. The Velkari soldiers had taken defensive positions in the main corridors, preparing to hold the line while civilians escaped. It was standard military doctrine when facing overwhelming odds. The humans did something else entirely. Captain Deho was leading a squad of Space Marines toward the station's main docking bay, where the Hive creatures were trying to break in. Veltara followed them, curious to see how these small beings would handle their first real combat situation. "Sir," one of the Marines reported, "we've got about 200 hostiles trying to breach the main airlock. They'll be through in 5 minutes. "Good," Deho said calmly. "That gives us time to set up." Veltara watched in confusion as the humans began doing things that made no sense. They opened emergency valves, activated maintenance systems, and started tearing apart wall panels to access the station's internal systems. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Fighting," Deho replied without looking up from the control panel he was rewiring. But not the way they expect. The airlock exploded inward. Hive creatures poured through the breach, terrible things that had once been people from a dozen different species, now twisted and changed into living weapons. They moved like a swarm, coordinated and deadly. The Velkari would have met them with overwhelming firepower, trying to establish a defensive line. The humans did something much more creative. Deho pressed a button on his improvised control system. The entire section of the station suddenly decompressed. Atmosphere rushed out through hidden vents that the humans had opened. Emergency blast. Doors slammed shut, trapping the hive creatures in a vacuum. Most of them died instantly. The few that survived found themselves in a maze of corridors that the humans had rearranged by sealing some passages and opening others. "How did you do that?" Veltara asked, genuinely impressed. "Humans are good at taking things apart," one of the Marines explained while checking his weapons. "We've been doing it to each other for thousands of years. You learned to be creative." The battle continued throughout the station. Every time the hive creatures broke through one area, they found the humans had changed the rules. Corridors that led somewhere 5 minutes ago now led into space. Life support systems had been turned into weapons. Even the gravity generators were being used as tools of war. Veltara realized she was seeing something unprecedented. The humans were not just fighting the hive. They were rewriting the entire battlefield to suit their needs. In the diplomatic chamber, Minho was still at his table with his papers, even as explosions shook the station around him. Sola stood by the window, calmly reporting on the battle outside. "Human fleet is doing well," she said. "They're not trying to win. They're just making the hive ships work for every meter." A terrible screeching sound filled the air. The main door to the chamber began to buckle inward. Something big was trying to break through. "That would be our cue to leave," Sola suggested. "Almost finished," Minho replied, still writing on his tablet. The door burst open. A massive hive creature shambled in. Something that had once been a Velkari warrior, now covered in black organic armor and sporting extra arms with razor-sharp claws. It saw the humans and let out a roar that shattered the window behind them. Minho looked up from his papers. "Interesting. Velkari base form, but with biological modifications. Probably retains most of the original muscle memory." The creature charged at him with deadly claws extended. Minho pressed a button on his tablet. A containment field activated around the creature, trapping it in a cube of solid energy. The monster slammed against the barriers, but could not break through. "Emergency containment system," Minho explained to Veltara, who had just arrived. "Every diplomatic chamber has one in case negotiations get violent." "Very useful." Veltara stared at him. "You just trapped a hive warrior in an energy cage like it was a wild animal?" "Essentially, yes." Minho stood up and walked around the contained creature, studying it from different angles. "Fascinating how they integrate the host's original biology with their own systems. I'll need to write a report. It was trying to kill you." "Yes. But look at the muscle augmentation in the legs, and those extra arms. The bone structure suggests they grew from modified ribs. Really quite elegant, from a biological standpoint." Sola joined them. "Battle's winding down. The hive ships are pulling back. They lost about 40% of their ground forces and didn't get anything useful from the station." "How many human casualties?" Minho asked. 3 wounded, none killed." Veltara could not believe what she was hearing. "You fought off a hive assault with 3 people injured?" "We didn't fight them," Deho said, entering the chamber with his Marines. We just made it too expensive for them to stay. The hive operates on efficiency. When the cost of taking something exceeds its value, they leave. But how did you know that? Minho looked up from his examination of the trapped creature. We studied them, read every report, analyzed every battle. The hive is predictable once you understand their operating principles. In our experience, Sola added, everything has weaknesses. You just have to be willing to look for them. Veltara watched as the humans calmly discussed the battle like it had been a training exercise. They showed no excitement, no relief at surviving, no anger at being attacked. They treated it as just another problem that needed solving. But what truly disturbed her was how they looked at the captured hive creature. There was no fear, no disgust, no hatred. They looked at it with the same calm curiosity they had shown, her during their first meeting, like it was just another puzzle to figure out. "You're going to study that thing?" she asked. Of course. Knowledge is power. The more we understand about the hive, the better we can deal with them next time. Minho made another note on his tablet. Though I should probably get it to a proper research facility soon. These containment fields aren't designed for long-term storage. As Veltara left the chamber, she found herself thinking about what she had witnessed. The humans had not won through superior strength or advanced technology. They had won by thinking differently about the problem, and they had done it all without showing any emotion beyond mild professional interest. What kind of species could face a hive assault and treat it like a science experiment? 3 days after the hive attack, Veltara found herself standing outside the human quarters again. She had been thinking about what she had witnessed during the battle, and none of it made sense according to everything she knew about warfare and fear. The door chimed when she pressed the call button. Minho answered it himself, looking exactly as calm as he had when facing down a hive warrior. "Commander Veltara, please come in. Would you like some tea?" "I need to understand something," she said, stepping into the small room. "How did you do what you did during the attack?" "Which part?" Minho asked, moving to a small kitchen area. "The tactical response or the containment field?" "All of it. Your people fought like they had done this 100 times before. No fear, no panic, just efficiency." Veltara sat down heavily in a chair designed for much smaller beings. "The Hive Collective terrifies entire star systems. They have consumed billions of lives, but your people treated them like a minor inconvenience." Minho poured hot water into 2 cups. "Would you like to see why?" "What do you mean?" "Our history. The reason we react the way we do. The station has a full cultural database. I can show you what made humans what we are today." Veltara nodded slowly. "Yes, I need to understand." Minho activated a wall display and began pulling up files. "Let me start with something recent. This is from about 50 years ago, what we call the Glass War." Images filled the screen. Veltara saw a blue-green planet that looked beautiful and peaceful. Then the images changed. Massive explosions turned entire cities into craters of melted glass. The sky burned red with fire and ash. Millions of small figures ran through the streets as buildings collapsed around them. Children cried over the bodies of their parents. "This was just one day," Minho said quietly. "The war lasted 3 months. By the end, 2 billion humans were dead. Most of our major cities were gone. The oceans were poison." Veltara stared at the destruction. It was worse than anything she had seen the hive do. "What enemy did this to you?" "No enemy. We did it to ourselves." The words hit Veltara like a physical blow. "What?" "Humans fighting humans. We had a disagreement about how the planet should be governed, so we tried to kill everyone who disagreed with us. Minho. Change the images. Now she saw human soldiers firing weapons at other human soldiers, human ships bombing human cities, human children hiding in underground shelters while human weapons turned the surface of their world into hell. But why would you destroy your own species? Because we could. Because we were angry. Because we thought we were right and they were wrong. Minho pulled up more files. But the Glass War was not unusual for us. Let me show you earlier conflicts. For the next hour, Veltara watched humanity's history of violence unfold on the screen. Wars that lasted decades, genocides that killed millions for the crime of being different, weapons designed specifically to cause maximum suffering. But she also saw something else. After each terrible conflict, humans rebuilt. They created art about their wars, music about their pain, stories about their losses. They studied what they had done and tried to understand why they had done it. This is what you call the Holocaust, Minho explained, showing images of massive camps where humans had systematically murdered other humans. 12 million people killed in just a few years. Not in battle, not for resources, just because some humans decided other humans did not deserve to live. Veltara felt sick. How did your species survive this madness? We learned. Each time we nearly destroyed ourselves, we learned something new about what we were capable of, and we tried to be better. Minho changed the images again. These are the trials afterward. Humans judging other humans for war crimes, trying to create laws that would prevent it from happening again. Did it work? Sometimes. For a while. But humans always find new ways to hurt each other. The images changed, to show more recent conflicts, smaller wars but still brutal. The Glass War was just the most recent example. So why are you not afraid of the Hive? After seeing what your own species can do? Minho turned off the display and sat down across from her. Because we know what real evil looks like. The Hive kills because that is their nature. They consume because they must. They are like a natural disaster, terrible but not evil. And humans! Humans choose to be evil. We can be kind, loving, creative, beautiful. And then we can choose to be monsters instead. We can choose to hurt people who have done nothing wrong. We can choose to destroy things just because we can. Veltara was quiet for a long moment, processing what she had learned. You said you would rather not do to me what you do to things you fear. What did you mean? Minho's expression became very serious. When humans are truly afraid of something, we do not just fight it. We study it, learn everything about it, and then we destroy it so completely that future generations forget it ever existed. You mean genocide. I mean erasure, complete and total elimination. Minho pulled up one more file. These were called smallpox, tiny living things that killed millions of humans throughout our history. We were terrified of them. The screen showed microscopic images of virus particles. Where are they now? Veltara asked. Gone. We hunted down every single one and destroyed them. They exist now only in a few secure laboratories, kept as samples. An entire form of life wiped out because we decided it was too dangerous to exist. And you think you could do that to the Velkari? I hope we never have to find out. But if humans decide that another species is an existential threat. Minho gestured to the empty screen. We have practice at making things disappear. Veltara felt that strange fear again. The same feeling she had experienced during their first meeting. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to understand. When I said I had seen what humans do to things we fear, I was not boasting. I was warning you. Your people terrify other species with displays of strength and violence. But humans have done things to each other that would give your worst nightmares nightmares. And yet you seem so normal, calm. How do you live with this knowledge? We had to learn how. Every human child grows up knowing what our species is capable of. We learn about the wars, the genocides, the casual cruelty we can inflict on each other. But we also learn that we can choose to be better. Minho stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Velkari's ship still patrolled around the station. Your people rule through fear because you evolved to be predators. You hunt, you kill, you dominate. It is natural for you. And humans? Humans evolved to be survivors. We survived ice ages, plagues, predators, and most dangerous of all, we survived ourselves. We learned to live with the knowledge that we are capable of absolute evil, and we choose every day not to be evil. But you could be, if you wanted? Yes. And that is what makes us dangerous. Minho turned back to face her. When your people threaten others, they respond with fear because they know you might hurt them. When humans make threats, people respond with terror because they know we might do far worse than just hurt them. Veltara stood up slowly. I need to report this to my war chief. I understand. But Commander, please remember something. Humans do not want to be your enemies. We would much rather be your friends. We have seen what we become when we stop trying to be good. As Veltara left the human quarters, her mind was spinning with everything she had learned. She had come here expecting to intimidate a primitive species into submission. Instead, she had discovered that these small, soft creatures were the product of a world so violent that it made Velkari society look peaceful by comparison, and they had chosen to be diplomats instead of conquerors. That choice, she realized, was what made them truly terrifying. Back in her own quarters, Veltara activated a secure communication channel. The holographic image of War Chief Nexthul appeared. Report, Commander. War Chief, I recommend immediate withdrawal from human space. What? Why? Because, sir, I believe we may have found something more dangerous than the Velkari Empire. Impossible. Sir, with respect, I have seen their history. These humans are not like other species. They are... Veltara paused, searching for the right words. They are us, but worse. Much worse. Nexthul's image flickered with interference. Explain. They have already done to themselves everything we have done to our enemies. And they survived it. All of it. The communication channel went silent. Veltara waited, watching her superiors face as he processed this information. Finally, Nexthul spoke. I am coming to the station personally, with the full battle fleet. These humans will learn their place in the galaxy, one way or another. The communication ended. Veltara stared at the empty space where the hologram had been, feeling a sense of dread she had never experienced before. Her people were about to make the biggest mistake in Velkari history. The Velkari battle fleet arrived 3 days later like a storm made of metal and death. 50 massive warships dropped out of hyperspace around Concordia Station, their weapons already charged and ready. Each ship was the size of a small city, bristling with enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. War Chief Nexthul's flagship, the Crimson Talon, dwarfed all the others. It was a monument to Velkari might, built to terrify enemies before the fighting even began. Black armor plating, covered weapons that could burn continents. The ship's very design screamed dominance and death. Veltara stood in the flagship's command center as Nexthul reviewed the tactical display. The human ships looked like insects compared to the Velkari fleet. 3 small vessels and a tiny science ship, completely outgunned and outnumbered. "These are the creatures that have you concerned?" Nexthul rumbled, his voice filled with contempt. "They look like they could not fight off a tan pleasure yacht." War Chief, appearances can be deceiving. I have studied their history. These beings are— I know what they are. Nexthul cut her off. They are soft mammals from a small world who think they can challenge the apex predators of this galaxy. Today they learn otherwise. Nexthul activated the communication system, broadcasting on all frequencies. His image would be seen on every ship around the station, including the human vessels. "I am War Chief Nexthul of the Velkari Empire. The species called humans will submit to Velkari authority immediately. You will surrender your ships, your technology, and your independence. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your homeworld." The communication channel crackled with static. Then a calm voice responded. It was Minho. "War Chief Nexthul, this is Kang Minho, representing Earth. We appreciate your position, but we must respectfully decline your offer." This was not an offer, human. This was a command. "I understand, but we still must decline." Nexthul's claws scraped against the control panel. "Do you see the fleet around you? Do you understand what we can do to your tiny ships?" "We see your fleet. Very impressive. 50 capital ships, approximately 2,000 fighter craft. Enough firepower to devastate a star system." Minho's voice remained perfectly calm. "We understand exactly what you can do." "Then surrender." "We cannot do that, War Chief. But we would like to offer you an alternative." Veltara watched in amazement as her supreme commander was drawn into a conversation with this small human. No other species had ever dared to negotiate after seeing the full Velkari battle fleet. "What alternative?" Nexthul demanded. "A choice. We can coexist as neighbors and trading partners, learning from each other and building a better galaxy together. Or we can go to war, and both our species will suffer terribly. You think your 4 tiny ships can threaten the Velkari Empire?" "War Chief, may I ask you something? In all your conquests, have you ever fought a species that truly wanted to destroy you? Not defeat you, not resist you, but actually erase you from existence?" There was a long pause. What kind of question is that? An important one, because humans have fought that kind of war before. Many times. We have practiced total warfare against ourselves for thousands of years. We know exactly how to make an entire civilization disappear. Veltara saw something she had never seen before. Nexthul looked uncertain. "You are bluffing," the war chief said, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. "Let me show you something," Minho said. "Commander Veltara has access to our historical databases. Ask her to show you what humans call a nuclear winter, or perhaps our biological warfare programs. Or maybe just look up something called scorched earth tactics." Veltara's claws moved across her control pad without conscious thought. The files appeared on the command center's main screen. Images of dead worlds, poisoned atmospheres, entire ecosystems destroyed so completely that they could never recover. "This is what humans did to their own planet during their wars," she said quietly. to themselves. Nexthul stared at the images. Veltara could see him trying to process what he was seeing. The Velkari conquered through strength and intimidation, but they left their conquered worlds intact. They needed them for resources and labor. The images on the screen showed worlds made completely uninhabitable, not conquered, but eliminated. You would destroy your own planet to deny it to an enemy? Nexthul asked. We have done it before, Minho replied. Large sections of Earth are still radioactive wastelands from our last major war. We rebuilt around them. But why would you do such a thing? Because sometimes, War Chief, survival requires accepting terrible costs. Humans learned long ago that there are things worse than death, things worse than defeat, and we learned to choose the terrible costs if we had to. Veltara pulled up more files. Images of human children living in underground bunkers, eating synthetic food and breathing recycled air for years at a time. Images of human soldiers fighting in conditions that should have killed them, fueled by nothing but determination to survive. Look at this, she said, pointing to one image. Humans fighting in their own ruins, using weapons that poisoned the air they breathed. They fought in their own toxic wasteland for 3 years before one side finally gave up. And the survivors? Nexthul asked. Rebuilt. Always rebuild. Humans are very good at surviving impossible conditions. Minho's voice came through the communication system again. War Chief, we are not threatening you. We are trying to explain something important. When humans decide something must be destroyed, we do not just attack it. We study it, learn everything about it, and then we eliminate it so completely that no trace remains. You would commit genocide? We have before. Not often, and never lightly. But yes, when we decide something is too dangerous to exist, we make it extinct. Forever. The command center was completely silent, except for the hum of the ship's engines. Veltara watched her war chief as he struggled with concepts that no Velkari had ever had to consider. The Velkari ruled through fear, but their fear was simple and direct. Submit or be killed. Humans offered something much more complex and terrifying. Submit or be forgotten. You would destroy your own ships to prevent us from taking them? Nexthul asked finally. If necessary, we would destroy our own worlds, to deny them to you. We would poison entire star systems to stop you from using them. We would turn every planet between here and Earth into a radioactive wasteland before we let you reach our home world. And then we would follow you home and do the same to yours. Veltara saw Nexthul's hands tremble slightly. For the first time in his life, the supreme predator of the galaxy was contemplating what it would be like to be prey. War. Chief, Minho continued, humans do not want to fight you. We would much rather be friends, trade with you, learn from you, share the galaxy in peace. But if you force us to choose between submission and total war, we will choose total war. Every time. Even if it destroys you, especially if it destroys us. Humans would rather die free than live as slaves. It is one of our most basic characteristics. Nexthul was quiet for a long time. The entire fleet waited for his decision. Veltara knew that with a single command, he could reduce the human ships to atoms. The humans knew it too, but the humans had made it clear what would happen after that. Not defeat, not conquest, but a war unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. A war where entire civilizations would be erased rather than surrender. What guarantees do we have? Nexthul asked finally. None. just as we have no guarantees from you. But humans keep their word, War Chief. When we make agreements, we honor them. When we make threats, we carry them out. Choose carefully." Another long silence. Veltara could hear her own heart beating in the quiet command center. "I will consider your proposal," Nexthul said at last. "We appreciate that, War Chief. Take all the time you need." The communication ended. Nexthul turned to Veltara, his expression confused and angry. "What kind of species threatens mutual annihilation as a negotiating tactic?" "The kind that has survived itself, sir. Humans are not bluffing. If we attack them, they will make this galaxy uninhabitable for both our species." "How can you be certain?" "Because, War Chief, they have already done it to themselves. Multiple times. And they survived every time." Nexthul looked back at the tactical display, where the 4 small human ships waited patiently among the massive Velkari fleet. They looked so insignificant, so fragile. But Veltara knew better now. Those ships represented something that had never existed in the galaxy before, a species that viewed total warfare as just another option on the menu, not a last resort born of desperation, but a calculated choice made without emotion or hatred. "Commander." "Veltara," Nexthul said slowly, "send a message to the humans. Tell them the Velkari Empire accepts their proposal for peaceful coexistence." "Yes, War Chief." As Veltara prepared the message, she thought about the conversation she had had with Minho days earlier. He had warned her about what humans did, to things they feared. Now she understood. Humans did not fear the Velkari because they had survived much worse than anything the galaxy's apex predators could do to them. They had survived themselves, and that, Veltara realized, was the most terrifying thing of all. Later, as the Velkari fleet prepared to depart, Veltara found herself thinking about the future. For the first time in galactic history, the Velkari Empire had encountered a species,